Hola a todos, me da muchísimo gusto saludarlos. Yo soy Carol Perelman para Enlace Judío y tengo el honor de hoy estar en el Centro Médico ABC, invitados por el doctor Salomón Lupa y Sharet Tzedek México, a hablar con el profesor Jonathan Halevy, que viene de Israel. Él fue 31 años director de Sharet Tzedek, uno de los centros médicos más importantes de Israel, está en Jerusalén, y 4 años ya presidente de Sharet Tzedek, uno de los pioneros también durante la pandemia. Fue un gran centro médico, aprendimos mucho de ellos y bueno, ahora está aquí en México y tengo el honor de platicar con él sobre dilemas éticos. Así que mucho de lo que vamos a platicar son los dilemas éticos dentro de la medicina, dentro de los procedimientos. Y bueno, Jonathan, Baruch haba Mexico.
Good to be here, thank you.
We're very happy to have you. And I want to start asking you, just gave a beautiful conference to the medical students and medical staff here at ABC Hospital in Mexico about fertilization. So I want you to sum up really quickly, what is the main ethical dilemmas we deal when we have to deal with congenital problems. We're starting in the Jewish community to look for genetic variants in couples, newlywed couples. So is there any ethical or not resolved ethical dilemma in selecting and in doing the in vitro?
Well, one has to remember that IVF is now 45 years with us, since 1978. And the main ethical dilemmas were, are we allowed to stimulate the ovary of a woman that usually physiologically produces one egg every month through the fertility years, to stimulate it to produce 10 to 20, because there is a danger of hyperstimulation. Today, the ethical dilemma is much less prominent because we learned how to do, and overstimulation that puts the life of the woman in danger is very, very unusual. But still, if you take an infertile couple and you do IVF, it's really a reasonable risk. But if you take someone who considers contributing an egg to an infertile woman who does not produce the eggs, the ova, are you allowed to stimulate it, to stimulate the ovary? And the answer is yes, because the benefit surpasses the risk. Also in PGD are people who has children with genetic diseases at home, and they want their siblings to be healthy. They have no fertility problems at all. But in order to produce a healthy baby, again, you have to ask the couple, although they can get pregnant the natural way, you have to ask them to get pregnant to IVF. So it's again stimulating the ovary. And during the lecture, I discussed it with various offshoots of these dilemmas, like homosexual couples and so on and so forth. But all these ethical dilemmas have solutions, and what we call the ART, assisted reproductive technology, IVF, PGD, really changed the face of infertility. Today, infertility that cannot be solved, almost does not exist. In order not to have babies today, you have to be born as a male without testes that produce sperm, or to be born with ovaries, without ovaries, or with ovaries that do not produce ova. And thank God, these are very rare occurrences.
So we can say that the frontiers of the ethical dilemmas are erased now in vitro fertilization, because as you explained, and I want you to share it with the people that are listening to this talk, what is the ethos really? What is the core of the compass in the ethical dilemmas for the Jewish religion, but also for the Israeli law? And I think it's very important for you to share what is that compass.
So I would not say that the ethical dilemmas are completely erased, but they are definitely dampened. They are much weaker. They can all be solved. In Israel, there are two facts that lead to the ethos of you have to have babies. That babies are very important, and more than one per couple. I'm not talking about the ultra-Orthodox who will, give birth to 10 or 15 children, but the average couple in Israel has 3.6 children, which is, 2.6 in the secular population, but if you take the average, it's 3.6 children. And this ethos is based on two issues. One of the first commitments in the Torah, in the Bible, is be fruitful and multiply. And the other one that I think plays a role in Israeli society more than the biblical commitment is the fact that Israel was founded on the ashes of the victims of the Shoah, where we lost 1/3 of the Jewish people all over the world, 6 out of 18 million. And that's why, because the ethos of Israel was from Shoah, from Holocaust to resurrection. Part of the resurrection is to have large family. That's why assisted reproductive technology is very advanced in Israel. For 9 people, we have 40 IVF laboratories, which is the highest number in the world.
And it's interesting, it's very relevant you talk about the Holocaust, because one of the main outcomes for the biomedical society, after the Holocaust were the Nuremberg laws, the ethics now that governs research and the medical practice comes precisely out from the Nuremberg. So I think probably as Israel and the Jewish ethical consent probably is pioneering the ethical community in the world. How do you see that?
In the way, so human experimentation by the Nazis was one of the most horrible medical events in history. Mengele and his associates. So you are right that you connect the fact that Israel was founded on the ashes of the victims of the Holocaust with the fact that modern regulation of medicine, the Helsinki laws about human experimentation, really are also the result of the very, very horrible lesson that we learned from human experimentation by the Nazis. And today it's heavily regulated. You can test a new medication, but there is phase 1 on animals, then phase 2 on a small number of people. Many of them have no other solutions to their problems, and only after 3 phases, and the 4th one is post-surveillance, you are really allowed to incorporate a new medication in the market. The medical community is very, very careful not to sacrifice more people to human experimentation, and Israel is especially aware of that.
And talking about ethics in medicine, what is the frontier now with artificial intelligence? And we see what is happening. Where is the future of medicine? Because with new tools arising, new dilemmas need to arise. So where do you see that?
Well, this is the most important question asked these days, especially that in November last year, only 6 months ago, ChatGPT came on board. And ChatGPT really changes the picture, because one has to understand AI, artificial intelligence, is a very important and useful tool in medicine to detect diseases, new diseases, to detect infections early enough, to detect cancer, all these data, and to interpret X-rays or other diagnostic modalities, extremely important and positive. When ChatGPT came on board, the danger is now really multiplying, because it's part of large languages models, and with large languages model there can be a lot of disease. I don't know how all the learning process in medical school, how will you differentiate the true knowledge of a young medical student or a young physician and the knowledge that he produced by research written by ChatGPT or by essays as a candidate to medical school written by ChatGPT. And I'm among those who think that they should be regulated. Exactly like when cloning came on board about 20 years ago, Until today, nobody clones human beings because it's regulated and it's forbidden. I think a similar process should be done, especially with advanced AI, not with the regular AI. But once we have these large language models that can code and really can influence society in a very good way and in a very bad way, the bad way should be regulated, and I think governments should pay attention to that, and I think it's happening these days. If you read The Economist of last week, there was a series of articles there explaining what is large language models, also explaining the dangers and calling for regulation.
So where are the conversations now regarding the ethics? I know you work for the Minister of Health in Israel. You're one of the leads and medical experts, public health experts in Israel. So where is, because I know you came to Mexico to talk about fertility and the ethical aspects of fertility. Social, ethical, and religious aspects of fertility. But where is the conversation now in Israel in regards to health and ethics?
So Israel has a patient's right law, one of the few countries in the world where there is a patient's right law. And according to this law, every hospital and every community health center have to appoint an ethics committee that is chaired by a legal person, but the members include philosophers, rabbis, clergymen, social workers, physicians. Usually it's a committee of 5 to 7 people. And any ethical dilemmas that arises in this medical facility, for instance, end-of-life care, a family wants to stop medical treatment, or if a patient refuses a treatment that the physicians are sure that will save his life, and many other ethical dilemmas, the ethics committee of the hospital convenes and makes a decision, usually trying to convince the patient that he is not right, but they can have decisions sometimes against the will of the patients with certain specification. One, I'm talking about a patient who is fully alert. If the patient is cognitively impaired, definitely his guardian can make the decision or the ethics committee. But if he's not impaired, he has full judgment, but he refuses a treatment that will save his life, the ethics committee, under certain circumstances. One of them is that the ethics committee assumes that after the procedure, the patient will agree retroactively that it was necessary to impose it on the patient. So medical ethics in health institutions in Israel is highly developed.
Well, we're very happy to have you here in Mexico. Not only an ambassador for Shaare Zedek, but Shaare Zedek's current success in Israel is mainly part as a result of your team, of your leadership. And I think we're very grateful to have you here in Mexico, here at ABC Hospital Medical Center, which is very near to our heart in the community. And I don't know if you wanted to add something else, if you wanted to share something.
So I'll tell you, you told me before this conversation that here in the hospital everybody has to wear a mask. It's not so in Israel, but you also educated me that the main difference between Israeli population and the Mexican population in terms of COVID, that Israel is an extremely high level of vaccination and immunization against COVID. Most of the Israeli population, over 90%, got 3 vaccines, all of them the Pfizer vaccine, not the Chinese vaccine, and many got the 4th and the 5th boosters, among them myself and all the medical community. So the level of protection that we have in Israel calls really for relating to COVID now as we relate to the flu. Also the severity of the disease, because of this high level of immunization of the population, the severity of the disease, today people get COVID, but I haven't seen a single case in the last 9 months that needed a respirator. And 2 years ago, the hospital, Shaare Zedek included, was full with patients with COVID and respirators. So, to sum it up, in countries where the level of vaccination is high,
and access
the variants
to treatment.
And access to treatment, the present variants, which are derivatives of the Omicron, do not pose a danger. How much danger they pose in populations like the Mexican with low level of vaccination using the Chinese vaccine, I'm not sure. Many of the experts say that today it's like the flu. And the flu, yes, we recommend to get a flu shot, but only a certain percentage of the population. Yes, in our intensive care unit in Shaare Zedek, every year at the peak of the winter, we have 1 or 2 patients on respirators, mainly immunosuppressed or with severe background diseases. I believe that the situation here is the same, but one should be more careful because of the low vaccination rate in the Mexican population.
Thank you very much. And I think this is a very clear message on how disparity sometimes makes the pandemic behave differently in different parts, and probably the descent from pandemic state to endemic state will be asynchronic as a result of those measures.
It's true, and the disparity really counts, but I believe that even the Mexican population today is not in danger for severe COVID. And I'm very curious to know if right now in ABC Hospital there is a patient with COVID on a respirator. And I'm sure that all the intensive care units were full with such patients when we had the previous variants.
That's correct. Probably we don't have here someone in respirator.
So
also in the country, most of
if
the...
you take an extra precaution of the mask, it's okay.
Exactly. And, well, most of the Mexican population had COVID already. So anyways, also it would be... That confers protection. So thank you very much, Professor Halevy, Jonathan Halevy. Muy honrados de tener en México a uno de los líderes en salud pública de Israel en nuestro país. Thank you very much.